Yeah, the sins of the father will be passed on. I'ma spend every dollar till the cash gone. Hope they remember my name once I pass on. I'ma leave you some jewels you can latch on.
Tupac did a lot, man. But let's start off with where Tupac's from. Tupac was born in East Harlem. You dig? New York City, yes. I know a lot of y'all think Tupac is from the West Coast. For y'all that don't know, man, Tupac is from the East Coast, man. He was born in Harlem, know what I mean? June 16, 1971. Yeah, he was an 80s baby, man. You know, a lot of things was going on back then, man. When you was coming up in the 70s and the 80s, it's a lot going on, man. You feel me? Crack epidemic. Yeah, it was really some spooky times. It wasn't no easy road to walk. You feel me? But he grew like a rose from the concrete. You dig? But he died at a young age of 25, September 13, 1996. But listen, he did so much in that short period of time, man. Let's break down the things that Tupac did. Number one, Tupac dropped 5 albums while he was still alive. Yeah, 5 albums while he was breathing, 6 after his death. His first album was called Tupacalypse Now. Now, I mean, he dropped that in 91. Then he dropped Strictly for My Niggas in 1993. His third album was Me Against the World. He dropped that in 1995. Then he dropped All Eyes on Me in 1996, which is a smash, you feel me? And then after that, he dropped The Illuminati. You dig? The 7 Day Theory. He dropped that in 1996. One of my favorite albums, man. One of my favorite albums. And that's when he changed his name to Machiavelli. See, you got to pay attention to that. He reinvented himself after he got shot up, came out of jail. He said, man, I'm going to reinvent myself and change my whole swag, change everything up. And he turned himself into Machiavelli, you dig? And that album was said to be written in 7 days. He finished that whole album in 7 days, which was crazy to me because it was a classic album, you dig? And after that, of course, they released 6 more albums, which of course made that 11 albums in total. Tupac sold about 75 million records. Now that's big, man. 75 million records as a solo artist is major, you dig? And I don't think, artists right now that's breathing haven't sold a fraction of that, you know what I mean? So y'all gotta understand, he was a beast on the mic, man, you dig? So listen, also, doing all of this, he dropped some movies too. Yeah, Tupac was an actor as well, for those that don't know, man. Yeah, his first movie was Juice. He starred in that in 1992, which is a classic, one of my favorite movies, man. Of course, he was starring with Omar Epps, a few other people, man. But that was a classic movie, you dig? I think everybody should go watch that, Juice. And also, it makes you realize life can be crazy. You got to watch your friends because you already know your enemies, but you got to watch your friends too because your friends could become your enemies. And we see it happen all the time where your friends become your enemies. Then after that, of course, he dropped another movie called Poetic Justice. Classic movie. Classic, man. He was starring with Janet Jackson in that movie. That was a dope movie. It definitely allowed more people to, get to know who he was and see a different side of him. Because in Juice, he was, basically a gangster, you know what I mean? A backstabber, his who he portrayed wasn't who he really was. But a lot of people kind of confuse that portrayal of that particular character with who he was as a person, which was definitely false. Now, did he have characteristics that may be similar? Maybe, I don't know. I never met him. But I could see how you could confuse the two, you dig? But Poetic Justice, he was a mailman in that one, so it gave a different, a different range of his versatility. And after that, he dropped Above the Rim. He was a gangster again. Yeah, a gangster called Birdie. Definitely gangster in that movie. That's one of my favorite as well. If you're a basketball lover, you'll definitely appreciate that movie. You dig? He dropped that in 1994. Then after that, he dropped Gridlock and Gang Related in 1997. Now check this out, man. Tupac did all of that before the age of 26, man. You dig? Now think about that, man. You probably 30, 40, 50, whatever. You know what I mean? But you haven't done a fraction of that. You might even be 22, 23, but you still ain't on the way to do a fraction of that. So we got to understand, how did he come up from those humble beginnings and rose to greatness and stardom. There's a lot of layers to it. It's a lot of jewels in his story, but we always want to focus on the negative. I want to focus on the positive. I want to focus on the good things that Tupac, did, because if we talk about the negative, we'll be here all day. Because of course, he was only human, so he falls short of the glory of God a lot of times. And a lot of times it was because of his big mouth. He always spoke with passion. He always spoke what was on his mind. And sometimes you just got to just not say everything that's on your mind. And also he sometimes associate with the wrong people. And some of those people, did a lot of things that some would say backstabbing things that caused him to, end up in jail later on in his years. So, he been through a lot, man. But no matter what adversity that he went through, he was able to do all this shit with all of the trauma and all of the adversities that was coming towards him at a speed of light. You dig? He was able to do all of this shit with the pressure on his back, getting sued, going to jail, being shot, being robbed. He was still able to be highly productive, which is damn near impossible for most people to do. To be dealing with so much drama, so much stress, so much adversity, and still be creative, still be able to record one of the most, arguably the best album ever written before in history, which is Machiavelli, which is the Dawn Illuminati, the 7-Day Theory, one of the best albums ever written. And he was doing all of that while being, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to get myself in trouble, because, you got to be easy how you speak about Tupac, because you never know, the powers that be is still watching. You feel me? So he was being watched by many. Y'all can kind of understand what I mean when I say that. He was being watched by the powers that be. He was being hated on by the dudes. He was being, loved by the women. So, he was dealing with a lot, man. But he was still able to be productive, creative, and able to drop classic albums and also star in classic movies, man. What's your excuse on why you're not doing classic shit? What's your excuse on why you're not being productive as you should be? What's the excuse why you ain't finished that book that you was working on? What's your excuse on why you ain't finished that movie that you said you was gonna finish? That script that you said you was gonna write? That book that you said you was gonna read? You know what I mean? That interview that you said you was gonna go on that you never did, man. You did? Tupac have done so much by the age of 25. Quincy Jones once said, if Malcolm X died at the age of 25, he would have been a hustler by the name of Detroit Red, and none of us would have ever known his name. And if Martin Luther King had died at the age of 25, he would have been a local Baptist preacher that nobody knew. And if he had passed away at the age of 25, he would have been a struggling trumpet player and a broke composer if he died at the age of 25. Tupac did things that would take people lifetimes to actually accomplish. They would have to die and come back 10 lifetimes just to accomplish a fraction of what he did. Cheers, what it is and what it ain't. It's yours truly, Liquid Cash. I need it all out the stash, AKA, but it ain't about that right now, man. It's about the Cash Academy, Personal Development Transformation Academy, where you can be, do, and have anything and everything you want out of life, how to make your dreams come true, how to manifest your reality, but most importantly, how to raise your DNA vibration. Y'all been asking me about my hair routine, my skin routine, my morning routine. Y'all been asking me all type of questions in my DM, but I've been hearing and I got the answers. Listen, the Cash Academy is the place where you need to sign up right now so you can have all the answers to the questions that you may have. You dig? Sign up right now. Join the Cash Academy with yours truly, Liquid Cash. Cheers.